This is a formal story and might have some weight in it, if it were not that it wanted truth of fact to support it. And that this is so, we must believe, till we get the following difficulties removed. The first is, how do they know the condition and circumstances of those that want to be assisted? That these good spirits must either know by an infinite prescience, by which they must every one of them know everything, and that not everything that is visible to human eyes, and real, but every invisible and imaginary thing, the thoughts, the anguish of the soul, the desires, wishes, fears, terrors, and hopes of, not only the particular persons they are to assist, but of all people whatever, in all places and times, and on every particular occasion whatever. And to do so would be to be absolutely and essentially God, and every one of them separately so. A thought attended with a heap of horrid confusions, and forming distracted images in the mind, such as tend to all manner of blasphemies on one hand or gross absurdities on the other. The next thing is, if the good spirits cannot by their own prescience know the condition and circumstances of those that may want their assistance, how, or by whom must they be, or are they informed of it? Now here is the only crisis in which the magician makes himself necessary. For if the good spirits had, joined to so universal beneficence in their disposition, and infinite knowledge of all the persons and their circumstances who stood in any need of their help, they would then certainly, in consequence of the general good disposition of their nature, immediately apply themselves to the proper objects, and in compassion to them would relieve and assist them of their own free goodness and beneficence, not needing the interposition of any other agent whatsoever. But now this we do not find, but these good spirits, with all the goodwill which they bear to us, yet sit passively still, and see all the miseries of mankind, and all the distresses which this or that particular person labors under, and perhaps languishes in, and at last lets him perish without the least help or assistance. This, I think, destroys the very notion of their prescience, or else it must destroy the notion of their beneficence. One or other must drop. They must either not know of the miserable wretch in his distresses, who wants their assistance, or knowing it, they must want a will or power to assist and deliver him. But here comes in the magician, and he truly, to make himself a necessary man in his generation, is to be made acquainted with our distresses and our complaints, and he is to lay them before these good spirits, and procure their answers. In which case it follows most naturally, first, that those good spirits are short-sighted, ignorant and uninformed beings, till they receive information from some inferior hand. Thus, in short, the counselor at law, he is ready to give his advice in the most difficult case, and perfectly qualified and able to direct what you should do. But he sits in his chambers in the temple, or in Lincoln's Inn, and waits, perfectly passive in all business, till the client, brought by the attorney or solicitor, comes to him with his brief. And if the client does not come, he may sit still and be ruined for any advice or assistance the lawyer will give him, till he is asked, or as the physician, he is master of his business, able to direct and advise, able to prescribe a certain cure, for such or such distempers. But sits in his study, and stirs not out of his easy chair, to do the distressed people in his neighborhood any good, or to help them in their greatest distress, till he is sent for, and the case laid before him, and then he shows his beneficent good disposition. If they have stayed till the distemper is too far gone, he pities them and shows his concern for them, but adds, "Why did not you let me know his condition sooner? I could have saved his life if you had sent to me in time. But how should I do him any good, when you did not so much as let me know he was sick?" And thus the poor patient languishes and dies, and the physician is not blamed by anybody, for how should he help him, when they did not send to him for advice, or so much as let him know he was sick? Secondly, that the magicians are a most necessary generation of men, that without them the miserable world would be robbed of the assistance of all those beneficent good spirits in the invisible world, which wait to do us good. Dispositions they are filled with, for want of knowing the condition and circumstances of those distressed creatures which stand in need of their help. And that those magicians being the only men that converse in that invisible world, and hold any correspondence with the spirits that are disposed to assist us, they alone can hand that assistance to us, being the only people that can acquaint the said good spirits with our condition. Thirdly, that therefore it is our only business to cherish and encourage these useful men called magicians, and to take care that the race be not extinct, and the world deprived of their extraordinary performances. This would be a noble doctrine for the men of figures and circles. A magician would outdo all the mountebanks, quacks and pretenders to infallible remedies in the world. They would bring law, physic and divinity into one head of practice, and, good spirits inspiring, they would cure the age of all its distempers, both soul and body. They would resolve all cases of conscience divino, cure all the incurables in Guy's hospital, and make that old's charity as useless as his. They would abridge the practice of the law to perfection, and bring all the pleadings at bar to chamber practice. The good spirits would all be peacemakers and magicians be general arbitrators. But this not being at present our case, from hence I venture to conclude, that these good spirits, if such there be, are not so intimate with our modern magicians as the latter pretend they are. And it is to be doubted these carry on their intelligence with a different sort of spirits, and in a manner savoring a little more of the diabolic, than the angelic. Or, as I said before, with no spirits at all. Babylon will fall. This is the foundation of what we call law, liberty, and property, and the like modern words very much in use. This is the end of parliaments, constitutions, government and obedience. And this is the true foundation of order in the world, and long may it be our privilege to maintain it.
Daniel Defoe was right the whole time. For 300 years he said men would be tyrants if they could. Daniel Defoe foreseen these things to come into our own times. He would be glad to see these sick monsters exposed, because Daniel Defoe he is on the eye of that floating pyramid of the USA $1 bill. He foreseen these things to warn the people of our generation. He was a man of true freedom. His words is his sword. From his pen he written on paper to make his way to freedom, praying that so men will read his books and know his knowledge to one day have the world free from the chains, just like in the Christmas Carol of Scrooge, when Marley said, "I wear the chains I worn in life, change your ways, so that you may not get up in the same fate." For our political and governments are truly the Scrooges of the world. Tiny Tim are the children of today that are tomorrow's future. You have time now to make a difference for the world people. Do not be like the leaders who are Scrooges. It will not go very well if you choose a path of destruction. Choose life equals light. Do not walk in darkness equals death. Make your mark on the world to make a difference for once. 2021 Big Ben clock in England will roar that day. What changes will you make right now before that comes? Are you ready to see Babylon fall? Watch the Christmas Carol movie of Scrooge. You will see how our very own political leaders, governments alike, are the Scrooges of the earth, trying to cause mass depopulation. 2021 and 2030 World Agenda to depopulate 95% of mankind and use invisible unseen world technology to depopulate mankind, like in WW2 Untold History of AI. Invisible Women programmed America's first electronic computer. The history of AI is often told as the story of machines getting smarter over time. What's lost is the human element in the narrative, how intelligent machines are designed, trained, and powered by human minds and bodies. On the 14th of February 1946, journalists gathered at the Moore School of Engineering at the University of Pennsylvania to witness a public demonstration of one of the world's first general-purpose electronic digital computers, the Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, ENIAC. Arthur Burks, a mathematician and senior engineer on the ENIAC team, was in charge of showing off the machine's capabilities. He first had the computer add 5,000 numbers together, a task it completed in 1 second. Then he demonstrated that the machine could compute a bomb trajectory in less time than a shell would take to fly from gun to target. The reporters were thoroughly impressed. As far as they could tell, all Burks had to do was press a button and the machine would whir into life, computing in mere moments what would have previously taken a number of days for humans. What the journalists didn't know, or what was concealed during the demonstration, was that behind the computer's apparent intelligence was the arduous and groundbreaking programming work of a team of 6 women, who themselves had previously worked as computers. The plan to build a computing machine that could calculate bomb trajectories took shape in the early years of World War II. The Moore School of Engineering was working with the Ballistic Research Laboratory, BRL, where a team of 100 human computers were trained to hand-calculate firing tables for artillery shells. This task required a high level of mathematical skill, including the capacity to solve nonlinear differential equations and use differential analyzers and slide rules. Yet computing was considered clerical work, a task too tedious for the male engineers to engage in. So BRL hired women, who mostly had university degrees and displayed high mathematical aptitude, to handle the job. As the war progressed, the capacity to predict the flight path of bombs became more integral to military strategy, and the BRL came under increasing pressure to churn out results. In 1942, the physicist John Mauchly wrote a memo proposing the construction of a programmable, general-purpose electronic calculator that could automate the computing process. By June 1943, Mauchly, along with electrical engineer J. Pressbreckert, received funding to build ENIAC. The world leaders planned to use AI technology to depopulate 95% of the human population. Agenda 2021 and Agenda 2030.